Good morning. Welcome to today's webinar on 3 demand generation myths, and we're going to debunk them. So, your host today, I am Deneen, the Director of Marketing here at Technology Advisors, and our presenter is Scott Elder. Scott is a Channel Account Manager at Acton, and Scott's going to have some great insights for us on what are these common myths that a lot of us as marketers believe, and what are we missing? How can we alter those perceptions and get ourselves in a position to do marketing better and do demand generation specifically better? Before we get started, just want to take a quick moment to make sure everyone is acclimated with the platform. We are using the On24 conference platform, so it may look a little different than what you're used to. Just wanted to let you know that you can pull the sides of those boxes as big or as little as you want. The bottom of the page there has widgets, which will show you the bios for Scott and I, ways to contact us, and you can adjust your volume and do other sorts of actions, all from that little widget area on the bottom. So if there are any questions on how to use that, please contact me and I will help you. In the meantime, I'd like to turn the floor over to Scott to get us started.
Perfect. Thank you, Deneen. And wow, I've got a bio. That's awesome. That's great. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So like Deneen said, we're going to go through and well, I use the Mythbusters analogy as well as debunking. We're going to bust a few of these. And just to set the standard right off the bat, we're going to take a look at 3 of them. And those are going to be, the first myth, I just need to fill the top of the funnel. And number 2, ABM or account-based marketing is just nothing more than advanced demand generation. And last one we're going to talk about is personalization doesn't have the right impact within the B2B market. So here's what we want to have for your takeaways from this one. We're going to give you some ideas for benchmarking the data for demand generation performance. And then we're also going to want you to take away some demand creation trends and some performance impacts. And then also, prioritize and get justification knowledge for your demand gen creation investments, because you guys are spending a lot of time and money in those. We want to help you get some tools for that. So let's jump into the first one. I just need to fill the top of the funnel. That's the first one. And the reality is, while yes, you do need to have a good funnel always, the reality is the quality really impacts those conversion rates. So one of the things that Acton did was we work with Sirius Decisions. And from Sirius's perspective, and this is borne out for Acton as well, because we use our own platform for our demand gen activities, along with Deneen is just a super power user as well as the platform. But what they looked at here was, early better qualification is key. And it's the idea is, you look at this lead level 2. If we take a look at that, a lead level 2 basically is passing the lead over to a salesperson, and it may be way too early in the cycle. And what you're seeing is if it comes over too soon without being qualified, the conversion to 1 ratio is only about 2.8%. That's not a really good conversion at all from open to closed business. But what they talk about is lead level 4, or you can look at it from a lead scoring perspective. If they get a higher lead score, that's going to be where the better conversion is going to happen. I really liken it to, if someone downloads just a white paper, or they take a look at an ebook or some kind of content on your website, and it's gated, which just to be on the same page with everybody, gated content just basically means they need to give you some pretty basic information. We can talk about what form fill fatigue looks like, but basically you're just capturing their name and their email address, for example. just because they've downloaded one single piece of information from you does not mean that they are ready to get a call from a sales rep or, be put into this bottom of funnel change. I mean, it's like if you go out on the first date and the person that you're with is thinking, hey, we're going to get married, and you're just trying to figure out, are we going to really continue to date? But passing the lead over after it's been nurtured from that top of funnel to middle funnel, that's where we really need to get you to focus on. So just filling the top of the funnel is not going to work. And as we look at this, let's talk about disruption overall and how that actually is driving things. So, disruption, it has happened in businesses forever, and it's nothing new. And if you think about it, it really tends to come in waves. So go way back before any of us were born, the introduction of the assembly line and mass production, that disrupted manufacturing in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And that led to the Industrial Revolution. And let me ask you, who do you think of as disruptive companies in the automobile industry today? Tesla comes to mind. Uber in the way that they do things, maybe even Apple. In the 1900s, it was Henry Ford. He did not invent the automobile, but what he did do was perfect the assembly line in a way that he could produce a Model T Ford in 93 minutes. At the time, that was absolutely revolutionary. Companies that start out as disruptors potentially can become the disrupted in the future. So part of our message today is that, disruption is not something new. Every business is always at risk from distribution. In today's world, it's digital. In the 1900s, it was mass production. Just a handful of years ago, it was social. So you always need to be thinking about, some potentially disruptive trends and how they're transforming your business in response. The current wave of disruption is being driven by the digital economy. New competitors are appearing with business models that are unburdened by the physical. I mean, take a look at a few of these right here. Airbnb, largest accommodation provider that doesn't have any real estate. What do all of these have in common? They're leveraging digital assets and not physical assets. So think of that as your niche in the market as well as all those digital assets that you have. By not owning physical assets, they're able to be much more agile and scale faster. The digital disruptors, they innovate rapidly, and then they use their innovations to gain market share and scale a lot faster than the incumbents that are still clinging to predominantly physical business models. Think about this. The first text message ever was sent in December of 1992, and 23 years later, 2015, text had grown to 23 billion messages a day. That's billion with a B, not million, 23 billion. Pretty substantial. Think about this. WhatsApp started in 2011, and in 4 years, they grew to over 30 billion messages per day. So text messaging, 20 years to 23 billion per day. WhatsApp, 4 years to 30 billion per day. The impact of the Industrial Revolution was broad, but the pace and scope of business disruption was nowhere near what we're seeing today with the move to digital. The Industrial Revolution, roughly 50 years. Digital disruption is taking place in less than a decade, and it's disrupting most companies. Transportation, real estate, text messaging, media and entertainment, retail. No industry is really completely immune. And a recent study by the Global Center for Digital Business Transformation took a look at the industries that were most likely to be disrupted by the digital revolution. So 41, basically the chart shows the respondents who felt that they were more likely to go out of business as a result of the digital disruption. first thing to note is that a lot of the industries in this study are above the average. You know, hospitality and travel, retail, media and entertainment, financial services, manufacturing. You know, note really here, there's very few industries that don't feel like they're affected. You know, when I looked at it, what stood out to me was that utilities kind of are the only industries not so worried about digital disruption. Otherwise, for most of the industries, the risk from digital disruption is very real. You know, further evidence of this, and one of the drivers is the pervasiveness of smartphones. You know, this chart basically is showing this particular buyer journey, accessing it from phone, accessing it from the desktop. I mean, it used to be back in the day, we as companies, we as marketers held the keys to the kingdom. You know, if somebody wanted information, they had to come to us. Well, the internet changed all of that, and the information is out there, and your buyers and your existing customers and prospects, they're leaving so many digital breadcrumbs behind. As marketers, we've got so much complexity that we have to successfully manage in the business process. The life of marketers, it's really gotten difficult due to all these trends. You know, what we've seen is that really about 70, maybe even creeping up into 75% of the buying process is done by the time a prospect is ready to engage with sales. So taking a look at it this way, 93% of worldwide users say new technology has changed what their customer expectations are. You've got to be able to pick up those digital breadcrumbs that are left behind. And, you know, a few questions. You know, do you have multiple marketing processes? You know, what are they? Do you have one for inbound marketing versus outbound marketing? Do you have one for acquired lists that you come back from a trade show with? Things like that. You've really got to have all of that. And then, you know, what changes in the data that you look like are investigating indicated conversion to a specific change in the funnel? And, you know, what are some key data points? Last one there is GDPR infractions could cost your company real hard money. I mean, that's a digital disruptor, bar none. So, you know, SiriusDecisions came up with a great visual on this one. It's basically the demand waterfall stages, and how just filling the top of the funnel is not actually the right way. I mean, you're taking a look at target demand and active demand, and when do you hand these off to, depending on how you're configured, we looked at it with them as saying, well, marketing can go to telephone sales, maybe that's a sales development rep or business development rep, over to sales or over into the right channel. And as we take a look at it, you know, what is the right spot to truly hand off to telesales? I mean, what type of activities do we see? You know, you look at the engaged demand and the prioritized demand as you roll it down. This is where you really do have to have a better model in place to try to figure out at what point do we send this over. I mean, you take a look, for example, on this one, in particular, maybe this was just a shorter, this particular person was very engaged and very giving indications that they are absolutely looking for more information and a quick call from an inside person or even an outside rep, depending on how you guys are all set up. But at that point, it's moving it quickly through, but understanding the buyer journey in there. Again, right here, maybe this directly skips the demand gen waterfall all the way through to, okay, they've had a couple pieces here, the target and active demand gen programs that you're running, and they are indicating to you through those digital breadcrumbs that we had talked about just a second ago, this is something that we need to get directly over to sales because this is a person that is really, really highly engaged. But this is how overall the demand gen myth of I just need to get a top of funnel. I need to have that so full. Absolutely, that's part of it, but you need to qualify it. I've been in sales for a number of years, and You know, I used to get leads passed over to me from my development team at a different company that it came over with kind of the same vernacular every time. Such and so is keen to meet and was very happy to take my call and would like to have a meeting scheduled immediately. And when I went back in and looked at what had they actually done, they had just downloaded a white paper. They were in no ways ready for me as a salesperson to be calling them, and what they needed to have done was continue to nurture them through this entire buyer journey that we have to master as marketing folks. So let's take a look at myth number 2. Account-based marketing, ABM, it's just advanced demand creation. Really, it certainly is a piece of it, but it is not just advanced demand generation. The two work together so well. You know, one of the things that we looked at with Serious Decisions is what's happening with budgets for account-based marketing. It's a hot trend out there right now, and the best thing to understand for you all as marketers, this is a hype that's actually working, and it is specifically designed for B2B marketers. It's not something that was around in the B2C world and suddenly they tried to adapt it up into B2B. This was something that was designed specifically for B2B. What we're seeing is that in 2016 to 2017, man, there's a huge spike in the amount of companies that are allocating hard marketing dollars to developing an account-based marketing scheme. Scheme in the best sense of the word, an account-based marketing plan, let's call it that. So one of the things that you'll see, and something to call out specifically, is marketing to accounts and account-based marketing, they really are a phrase that's used kind of interchangeably. So don't get hung up on that at all, but there's a few differences to understand. So, you know, in the idea of marketing to an account, well, it's based on the business segmentation. Absolutely. That can be everything set up by the geographic location, that can be set up by vertical, things like that. The planning, it's meeting those needs of the market segment. And we said earlier too, like the tactic selection, you know, you're choosing that based on a persona of needs or the buyer's journey. So it's thinking of it kind of as a one-on-one, maybe one-to-many to a lesser degree, but the success metrics based off of marketing just to accounts is the new pipeline that's delivered. Well, switch that over and take a look at account-based marketing. It's based on available account insights. You're looking at the company as a whole, because in today's age, no longer do we see that it is limited to just one person in the buying process. There's a bunch of different stakeholders in there, and what we're seeing with account-based marketing is understanding that particular account as a whole rather than an individual, and all these stakeholders are giving you their digital breadcrumbs. And the planning, you have to actually bring that into the buying center and understand that within this company, these different little silos are going to have different needs and different wants, and being able to respond to that effectively. And you know, the tactic selection, again, is chosen by the account insights, everything that you're gaining from this particular account that you're working within. And the success metrics is the influence, the growth, and the productivity to a closed and won business. So if we take a look with our friends with Serious Insights, what they did was they came across with a degree of account insights on a nice X and Y axis. Across the bottom, you're starting to see the degree of account insights. You know, and across the vertical axis, you're seeing sales and management, joint level engagement. Moving from left to right, you know, the limited customization, yeah, that's just defined demand. But as you move way over to the right, you're starting to see that coordinated customization, you know, it's the named account marketing within the industry. There's a great engagement between sales and marketing together, and it's a stronger understanding of the segment and the individual accounts. And then As we move up and to the right into large account marketing and advanced customization, well, that is the strongest level of joint account engagement, and you've got a ton of deep account insight that you're working from. So within Act-On, little plug, when we're working with us on general demand marketing, it's easy within Act-On to set up the contact list by the persona, by the industry, geography, funnel stage, and more. And with account-based marketing, your aim really is to deliver those personalized and deeper engagement with those specific accounts or businesses that you're working with. So instead of leads as an account-based marketer, you are focused on the opportunities. And Act-On's account-based marketing, it allows you to establish those lists at the account level, as you can see here, within territory, within the industry, and more. Once you've identified those at the account level in your CRM, you're able to leverage the data and then really drill down into the contact activity within the accounts and aggregate those scores together. Rather than having individual scores, being able to aggregate all those scores of those individuals within that particular business that you're targeting, we can bring that down very specifically into how is this company actually engaged with us? Is it something that maybe on an individual level, those scores are not all that attractive, but within this one, we start looking at the additional content and what content you might want to send over based on the engagements of the individuals within that company. You know, branching, it helps you send the right messaging based on the interactions like opens or clicks, and you know, exit conditions help you make sure that a person is removed when this program is no longer relevant to them. And you know, when a lead is qualified, you can use automation rules to push them over to your CRM and assign the appropriate sales rep to follow up. Okay, myth 3. Personalization doesn't have the right impact within B2B. Well, I've heard that, and personalization has to be properly executed for the right results. I mean, personalization, I always say, that's king right now. It's got to be, again, going to our friends with Sirius. You know, what we looked at is personalization usage. You know, everything from some website responsive, you know, serving up suggested information based off of where they're at on the website, what type of content are they looking at. That's actually personalizing it. And what we're starting to see is that 46% of sales teams are absolutely using personalization these days, and the trend for marketing is 71% are actually using highly personalized content based off of behavior. Future spend, 49% are looking at increasing their spend greatly or significantly in how to better execute on personalization. Now, Sirius looked at it this way with the personalization model. I can say that. You know, the right strategy. I mean, they're taking a look, right strategy, right design, right delivery to get the right return. You know, it's funny, sometimes we just tend to shoot from the hip and spatter stuff out there as far as trying to get content out. But the right strategy, let's take a look at it. I mean, understanding some simple goals of what are we trying to accomplish and what is the audience segmentation that we're looking for to the right design. You know, content strategy simply is just defining what content are we going to be serving up to individuals that are engaging with your brand digitally, and the right delivery method. You know, how is this person actually engaging with us? You know, what are the right ways to engage with them? And then obviously at the end, the return, you have to be able to demonstrate the measurement and the reporting of what type of impact did marketing have on sales? What's the revenue attribution? You know, we look at it this way at Act-On. You can see right here, we're taking a look at this one, again, this person, how they're engaging with us. But Automation platforms, they've got to be designed for personalization. Having the ability to process lots of data very quickly, and it provides the results. Tracking and analyzing huge amounts of behavior and interaction data quickly for Acton is something that we do every single day. What it allows you to do is leverage all this data to support a more personalized engagement. And that's personalization in multiple categories. It's allowing you as a marketer to do something like implement an A/B testing, understand which one's actually working better, personalizing it then and then optimizing the website based on the winners in an A/B test. That's really the easiest place to start. Recommendations, are next along the maturity curve of personalization. Recommending content and offers or products to a customer, you can do that without knowing who they are. Serving up recommendations based on the current customer's browsing history or their activity, for example, that's personalization. That's giving the lean-in effect. And then finally, individualization is the most mature. Having the first and third-party data, segmenting them ahead of serving up an offer or product. The value to you as a marketer is absolutely increased conversion rates, and then decreased time spent on trying to analyze different campaigns. So what we're seeing here, just as I click through this, is the behavioral score, 45, CRM's updated, rep is alerted and sees all the engagement that this person has had. And additionally, what we're doing is segmenting that down a little bit differently. What we're seeing is this person is very interested in product A, so we are prioritizing the engagement and the personalization for product A. So is content king? 7 is the average number of assets that are downloaded in a considered purchase cycle. So what type should the vendor follow-up to be? Doing surveys, the follow-up should be, what we found was 62% of people that responded said, you've got to be providing us information that are specific to what we've been researching. Now, I use the phrase, rather than sending out a vanilla blah, 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 thank you for visiting our website, hey, think this might be a content piece that would be interesting to you. Using engagement insights to understand this particular customer is very specific on a particular product set within your company. Don't serve them up the product of B when they were looking at A. And conversely, what happens is when you have your sales teams involved and are able to transfer all that digital information over to them, the sales team can come into it much more engaged because they know specifically what the prospect or what the existing customer is truly looking at. And so that engagement with them is very highly personalized. So again, personalized content really is the king. So, areas with the greatest adaptive potential marketing potential, and that's something that Acton we talk about quite a bit is our ideas behind adaptive journeys and using AI. Understanding what type of content in the campaign elements at the very beginning. The insights you can be able to gain from using AI, artificial intelligence. It comes down to, what content performs the best, what nurturing should be going on. As we move over to the right and we look at it, the recommendations. Again, this is using predictive analytics, but what you're basing it on is what the customer, what that digital footprint in breadcrumb is telling you. One of the pieces that we're looking at Acton is our adaptive segmentation, and involving with that, what type of content should I actually be sending to this one, or what nurturing should I use for this particular segment? A feature that we've talked about before, but is actually coming out this quarter because we're in final beta testing in the US with it, is the idea of adaptive send time. So taking that idea of learning about everything that you know about that particular customer or that particular industry and engaging with them, and that's through social, Twitter, for example, that's through email engagement, just the analytics saying the best time to send to Scott is 8:30 on Tuesday. Whereas the best time to engage with Deneen is maybe on Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because what we're seeing is when they're actually opening up the emails that are being sent or they're engaging with us on a social piece, that's actually their best predictive engagement. And then leveraging the personalization piece of that as well and sending them the content that is absolutely most relevant to what they're looking for. So, you know, getting recommendations to prospects, you know, initially, if we took a look at it here, email campaigns weren't generating revenue because of low interaction rates. Well, if you're just sending out content that is very generic, not targeted, and not taking into consideration how the prospect is engaging with you, that's not going to work. So the objective then is target those customers that you're looking at with a personalized content to get to the point that you can actually create a quote request across the entire customer life cycle. Get the right recommendations to your prospects. So the from and the to, basically, you want to get from disconnected sales and marketing with minimal visibility behaviors and some really basic personalization. What you want to do is get your sales and marketing teams in alignment with each other and drive those deep behavioral insights, and then the deep individual personalization too. And again, optimizing, nurturing at every step along the way. And, you know, obviously track back the impact of those campaigns. So one of the things I wanted to show here was Bisco Industries. So they're a maker of electronic components, hardware, and fasteners, and they grew their, let's build this all the way out, they grew their conversion rate by a whopping 1,285%. They did that while increasing the number of campaigns it runs by 78%. And Avery Dennison, global supplier of adhesive technologies, is another one in there, display graphics and packaging materials. Increased its email open rate 3 times with Acton's platform, and they saved countless number of hours. According to James Moat, the Director of Global Digital Corporate Communications at Avery, Acton's automated programs have tripled our email open rates and saved us countless hours of labor, and has generated so many well-nurtured leads that our biggest concern is providing enough staff to follow up on them. And that is just a huge, huge good problem to have. But what you're seeing is the inbound, outbound sales and loyalty across this framework. This is how it is actually working. Lastly, from our friends here at Serious Decisions is, you know, a set of program elements. It's required to deliver on the promise here, and we take a look at the action items. You know, ensure buy-in and interlocks between the sales teams and the marketing teams. Make sure it exists. Focus on the key categories of strategy, design, delivery, and return. And then last one here, ensure the key elements to deploy personalization have been identified and roadmapped. I call that plan twice, execute once. And in the whole process here for the demand gen, take a look at different ways to build and optimize the content, and then design and build off of those creation programs, the demand gen delivery mechanisms, understand and optimize what is the best way to get the information to your prospects or your customers. I mean, again, you're taking a look at those digital footprints that we saw earlier, that this particular person, they just want to engage by email or by downloading content, and they don't specifically want a call from a sales development rep or a sales rep in particular. As opposed to somebody else, you're getting the insights of, they really respond well when we call, and then we're able to serve up the content to them that is designed specifically for them. And then, you know, demand functional design and development. You know, you transform it, become a best in class at understanding the performance and the optimal business value contribution that as marketers we're bringing to them. So, At the end, the reality is quality. It significantly impacts the conversion rates. No question about that at all. Getting a full funnel, yes, absolutely, but nurturing those leads to the appropriate time to hand off to the business development team or the sales rep, that's key. Account-based marketing and demand gen creation complement each other. Absolutely, the two need to work hand in hand. And personalization is king. You've got to have it properly executed for the right results. Janine, I'm not sure if we had any questions come in on this one. A lot of times what I've seen is there's just a time that folks just need to absorb all this information, and they come back with questions to you after the fact. But if any questions came in during this, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say the same thing because I think for me too, I'm still absorbing. One of the things that really blew me away was the idea that on average, people are downloading 7 pieces of content as they are looking to buy a product. That is, wow. That blew me out of the water. I had no idea. So definitely makes an argument in my mind for why we need to continue putting that content out there for them, educational resources, white papers, videos, all those things makes the case.
Absolutely. And, the nice thing is you can reuse that content and just frame it differently to continue to refine and get the results and the downloads and the asset views that you really need to see. But that, I agree, Janine, that was one that caught me by surprise too, that it was that much content. And that's all being digitally provided. That was an eye-opener for me too. I completely agree.
And I think it was actually you, Scott, that mentioned this must have been last year at least. What you're saying about reusing that content, that's something I've always kept in the back of my mind since. That okay, well, if we make a video, I believe you called it something like the power of 3, where if I make a video, I can turn that into a blog as well. I can expand on that and turn it into a longer checklist, white paper type of educational resource. And you don't think about that a lot of times. It's easy to kind of gloss over that. As a marketer, you have a lot of things going on, and you're kind of like on to the next thing. But it's given me the perspective to take a step back and look at, okay, well, what have we done and what can we do more of with this? And it's definitely helped the marketing process. So lots of really good insights for sure.
And one of the things if we talk about building some content out, and absolutely, it's the power of 3, being able to reuse that same content. If you're looking at some content to start putting out there to attract people to your brand, talk to the sales team and find out what are the common questions that are being asked. Because if you get the same question being asked over and over and over again, boy, there's an indicator of a great blog post or a white paper that you could do, or a LinkedIn post, something like that, because you've got this huge database. I mean, one of the first places that I would go to start doing those the 6 downloads or the 7 views that people are taking a look at, go to your K-base. Do you see a question that, again, this is where sales and marketing getting in line. It's like, what are you guys hearing that are consistently being asked of you? For me, it's, so what's the difference between Acton and MailChimp? Well, that's a great question that I get asked all the time. Or if you want to genericize it, I like making up my own words. What's the difference between marketing automation? I'm good at that. What's the difference between marketing automation and email marketing? Aren't they just the same thing? Great. You know what? That is a great blog post that I was able to create, because that's a common question that's asked all the time. There's some great content that you can just start building out right away to give you those 7 downloads that you're looking for.
So true, Scott. And
I think
it's funny you mentioned referencing your sales team, every other month about, I would say, I send out a not just our sales, but our services department as well. I send out an email and say, hey guys, I actually just sent it out this week. I sent them one that said, can you guys give me some feedback? What have you been hearing lately from your customers? What are some challenges that you've recently overcome? What are common issues that have been coming up? And yeah, it really, if you're, as a marketer, sometimes you feel like you're kind of, running on fumes when it comes to trying to think of good content to put out there, because it feels like a lot of things have already been done. But when you get feedback like that, you get this perspective that you haven't seen before, and now you're really making something that's going to be of value to these people that maybe you wouldn't have even noticed if you hadn't opened those lines of communication with your other departments.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Well, Deneen, as always, is a pleasure. And folks, I hope that you are finding this content that we've provided today beneficial. If you have questions, I would definitely go directly to Deneen on that one. She's the expert, and she'll engage with you and find the right resources to bring into bear for you.
Thank you, and thanks again, Scott, for being here with us today. Again, you'll see on the screen here my and Scott's contact information. I hope that we've answered a lot of your questions and busted these myths for you, and we will be back soon with a new chapter and a marketing advice. So enjoy the rest of your week, and have a great day.
Perfect. Thanks all.